Hey guys, hope you're having a great day today. This video is going to be all about saving on utilities. Now, doing so, this is good for people that just have a couple kids or people that don't have any kids, but especially true for people that have a large family, because having a large family, it can get very costly, trust me. And so I always think people always say, oh my goodness, I don't even know how you can afford to have so many kids. And I think, well, I don't know how you can afford to live the lifestyle you're doing with 2 kids. We just do things differently. Having our large family and being able to afford it, we just had to learn things over the years. Now, when we were first married, we spent a lot of money in groceries. I would just go to the store and buy whatever I wanted to buy, a lot of pre-made things, and I would spend $250 worth of groceries easily, and that was way back in the day, like 22, 23 years ago. And so I think we could spend that now a week if I went yes, we do spend that now. We do spend that now a week with 11 of us eating. So I've just had to learn over the years. We would take vacations whenever we wanted, or we wanted to go here, or day trips. We'd just go out and then just buy whatever we wanted when we were there. So I've had to learn how to manage our money, because we got into problems, and then I had to learn, okay, then my husband lost his job. He worked for the auto industry and he lost his job, and we had to learn real quick how to manage our money. And so it was just a good crash course. And we did. We learned how to do things inexpensively. We learned how to do a lot of free things. And then we just enjoyed. Like, we look back and we think when my husband lost his job and he was unemployed and there was no jobs in Michigan, our favorite things were that we hung out a lot. We did all of our hanging out. We'd go to the beach every day. We would just hang out and go to the park every day. And if we had a little bit extra money, we might get slushies or something fun. But most of the time, we were just spending good quality time. And those are some of our favorite times that way. So when I say cutting back on utilities, cutting back on things, it's not so that we have to do without things. It just gives us a mentality so that we can have that extra money to do things that we want to spend our money on and have fun doing as a family. You know, having a large family is important to my husband and me. We've learned that this is what we want out of life. So we're going to choose not to do things like the world. We might not take a huge vacation every year like everybody else does. We might not drive 2 brand new cars with car payments like everybody else does. But that's something that we have learned to, okay, what are we going to do without so that we can do this? But then we try to, if we have to cut corners on something, there's something that that way we're able to put our money towards, so that we never feel like we do without, or the kids feel like they do without, things like that. A huge thing, we did the Dave Ramsey's course way back in the day, and that was one of the biggest things that helped us with finances. I went to college as an accountant to do accounting, and so I know money, I know how to do all that stuff, and my husband did, so he was a spender, I was a saver, and that's never a good mixture. So we had to be on the same page with things and how we did money, otherwise it's just going to be a constant battle. And so finally, when we got on the same page, we were able to know, oh, okay, it's important to save for an emergency. Oh, it's important not to use credit cards. It's important not to be in debt. You know, it's much more important to buy and invest in something instead of buying it over and over and over again over the years. And so we've just had to learn over the years on things. We learned to set budgets for things. We budget our money out for different expenses and different things for the month, and we do it every single month, so we know what the costs are going to be. So what are some things that you can do to cut your utility bills, because those can get very costly, especially if you're used to having everything like one way, or having things one way and just one set. Things that we do, we clean and replace our air filters every 3 months is what we do in our home here. I put it on my calendar every 3 months at the beginning of the year. When I get my planner, I put on that, like, right in January, then I go to March and I write change filters, and then I buy them at Sam's Club. At the end of the year, they have a whole pack of them for cheap with the rebate, so I get those. I have them on hand. I don't have to worry about going and buying them for the year. I've got them, they're in the closet, and then we just replace those all the time, because that helps cutting down so that your furnace doesn't have to overload. We adjust the thermostat in the winter and the summer. We do that all the time. Keep it the same in the winter, keep it the same in the summer. In the in-between times, like the spring and the fall, we don't need it, we just shut it off. We check and clean out our furnaces, things like that. Make sure it's up to date, make sure it's clean, make sure there's anything we have to replace in it so that nothing does go wrong in the future. As much maintenance, preventative maintenance that we can do. We open our windows to improve air quality. Around here, we can do that sometimes different times of the year. In the summer, it gets really bad because the pollen is so high, so we can't have them open. So central air is very important, but most of the time we just keep the window cracked, and that just helps with the air quality. I love having my windows open. That is my favorite thing to do, but when we have pollen, it comes in so thick. It just comes in and coats your screen with the yellow stuff, so we don't do that all the time. If we were in a room that we weren't using, we would close the vents in that room, like especially in the summer and the winter, because there's no sense in cooling or heating a room that you're not using. Use fans a lot. We have overhead fans in each of the rooms. We use those all the time instead of air conditioners. I mean, the house does have central air, but using fans helps hugely. We do the ceiling fans where we put them in one direction for the summer months and the opposite direction for the winter months, so that it pushes down air and pulls up the air like it's supposed to do. We make sure the attic has got the extra insulation in there. If you've got any leaks or cracks in your house, fill those with caulking. Put the weather stripping in your doors. That all helps hugely. Put plants and trees, shrubs around your house to help insulate your house. One of the things we did in Michigan when it was really cold is we would roll up towels. I used to have when I was a kid, it was like a snake. It was just a tube that somebody had stuffed with, I don't know if it was cat litter or sand or something. I don't even know what it was, but and then we put that under the door for the drafts. And so sometimes here in the winter, I will roll up a towel and stick it by the crack of the door so that that doesn't come in, because it helps, it cools the house so your heater does have to work more. So that's something to do. We dress appropriately in the wintertime. If we're cold, like if my feet are cold and my heat's already set at a certain setting, instead of turning the heat up right away, that's not my first reaction. My first reaction is go put some socks on or some slippers on or put on a hoodie or a sweater. If it's really cold where it is just frozen, then yes, we would turn the heat up a little bit. But instead of turning that up as our first, I usually put more clothes on. In the summer, we're wearing tank tops and our like shorter like skirts or shorts or whatever. Just stay cool that way. So dress appropriately. You shouldn't have to wear a bunch of clothes in the middle of summer and then turn your air up really high, or less clothes in the winter and then turn your heat up high. So dress appropriately. At nighttime, if you have a programmable thermostat, it's great because it turns down at nighttime, and just use extra blankets while you're sleeping. Keep your blinds and curtains closed when the sun goes down. That helps keep your house. I know around here too as well, we'll keep our curtains shut in the wintertime because it does keep that heat inside. And in the summer, when there's not a lot of, the trees haven't grown and things like that, and there's not a lot of cover outside, I will shut my curtains. I got the nice thicker curtains, and I will shut those so that it doesn't, because otherwise that sun comes in and heats the house up and the air conditioner has to run all the time. So I like to do that in the summertime. In Michigan, we also had where it was just freezing. In one of our rooms, we had electric heat, and it just was not very efficient through the house. And so one of the rooms, instead of turning the heat up really high, I would just put a little space heater. You have to be really careful with those, especially with kids, but we did use those in our homes because it was so cold. Here, I don't have to worry about that. But I know in my husband's garage, he uses a kerosene heater just to heat up in the shop down there. Another thing you can do, make sure that you clean out your dryer vent, because your dryer has to work overtime if you don't clean that out. So make sure you clean that out. Dry your clothes one after the other. Don't let your dryer heat up, then let it sit for an hour or two, and then put it on again, because then it has to heat up, cool down, heat up, cool down. Keep it constant, the temperature. Keep it all done at one time. If you can, hang your laundry outside. That's something we did all the time. I've done that my whole entire marriage. We've hung clothes outside. The only reason I don't do it at this house is because we live on the side of the mountain and there's no place. But if I have something big like blankets, and I have a lot of jeans in the summertime, I might hang those up over the railing, over our deck, things like that. But we have a high pollen content, so that gets into our clothing and things like that. And so, it's my stove oven. And so it gets in there, and I realize that's not good for my kids to breathe in. So if you can hang out, hang out. Invest in a clothesline. It's a great thing to do. And if not, use a drying rack indoors. That's something else we use. We use that for, we didn't have a dryer, and so I just use that for all my underwear, socks, things like that. But we use that for bathing suits in the summer, so I do use our drying rack for that. Your hot water pipes, make sure they're insulated. That's something usually done in most of them. If you have you can put a timer on your water heater so that at nighttime it just shuts off and doesn't work, and then during the daytime it's on for you. And when you go out of town, turn your water heater off. That's a way to do it. Wash all your clothes in cold water. That's something I've done forever. I don't ever use hot water except when I had cloth diapers. I always use cold water for doing all of my laundry. Make sure your refrigerator and freezer, once a month I make sure I take with the hose and clean out the coils underneath the refrigerators, and if you have an old school one, on the back of those as well, because if that gets accumulated, sometimes, I think I heard from a repairman one time, especially when you have older ones, we only have one older freezer downstairs, but if you have older refrigerators, things like that, they say the most common reason for failing is because these coils are so built up with dust and lint. So if something's not working, keep those things all cleaned out. And so I usually get the hose for the vacuum and stick it underneath it and suck all that stuff out of there at least once or twice every couple months. I do that for our home. Defrost your freezers if they're not defrost free. as well. I have a freezer downstairs that it's old school one, and usually when it starts building up with that ice, the next month that the food goes down, I let it defrost and go out, because otherwise it's got to work double overtime to keep that food cold. In your summer months, use your grill outside as much as possible. It keeps the heat from having to keep on in your house. Also think of using like a toaster oven, a microwave, an electric skillet, or a crock pot. That uses way less energy than the stove and the oven. I usually try to plan my meals out in the summer. We don't do a lot of baking in the summer. And then when I did, I would do it at nighttime when it was a lot cooler, and I'd open the window up, things like that. And so that helps when you are using on the burners. Use the right size burner for your pan. If you got a small pot, don't put it on the big burner, put it on the small burner. When you're boiling water, boiling things, put the lid on the food. The food, when you're heating food up, it just escapes out of the top, so put the lids on it to help conserve that energy. Install dimmers on your lights if possible. Use LED lights whenever possible. I know for most everything is turning to LED, so I don't think that's an issue so much anymore. But we try, I know they're a little bit more expensive, but we try to replace those and go to those instead of the regular ones. And teach your kids to shut lights off when they leave a room, because otherwise the lights will be on all the time. I always tell my kids, shut the lights off, shut the lights off, shut the lights off, so they can learn to do that. So how about water, saving on water usage? I know having a large family, we use a lot of water, and we have had our fair share of full septics, overflowing things, and it is not a good thing. And so when I moved to this house, I had our septic guy came out and I told my story about when we moved in and how we did our septic. He shared with me so many tips and how much each appliance uses, and so for us to be careful of our water. His number one recommendation was to get a meter for our well. And I think you just install it on there, and you're able to see how many gallons you use per day, and then you can correspond that to the size of your tank. I don't remember the numbers right now, but I know how big he said my septic was. And then he went through all the numbers of how much a regular toilet uses, and how much a regular washer uses, how much the dishwasher uses, how much it uses for baths versus a shower, things like that. So I added up all the things that we would use, and I was like, wow, we're gonna use it up really full. And so what we did as a family is we went through and replaced, I think everything, all the shower heads and sink faucets all have the water efficient heads. And so that was something cheap you can do. That's like just, you can get a new shower head for like, I think it's like $6, $7 at Walmart. Same thing with the sinks, are only a couple bucks. So that will save on your water consumption there. We wash dishes by hand as much as possible instead of the dishwasher. If you use the dishwasher, make sure it's full and not half full, because that uses a lot of water as well. When it comes to laundry, we had the regular old school drum one that, I want to say it was something like 40 gallons of water each load. I don't remember, it was a lot. But with the energy efficient, it's only 15. So that was a no-brainer. When we moved here, that was a regular washer here, so we definitely, as soon as we could, we bought the energy efficient washer, and it only uses, I think, 12 gallons of water, and so that's a huge thing. That was a big money waster in our big money user in our home. And then the toilets, we had 2 toilets that were energy efficient, and I think they use 1.5 gallons per flush, and so we had another toilet that was not, and so that was something else we purchased this year, or when we first moved here, was the other energy efficient toilet, water efficient, not energy, water efficient toilet. So all of our toilets are all water efficient. Our washer is that way. Our sinks and things like that have it. And then my showers, baths take up less than showers do if you don't fill the tub up all the way. So I know for us, I've taught my kids to take a 7-minute shower. And so I guess I didn't realize that nobody else does that, because I was talking to my girlfriend, my daughter, and she's like, her boyfriend takes showers, and it takes like a 40-minute shower. And I was like, oh my goodness. I'm like, how can you take a 40-minute shower? That's crazy. And she's like, oh my goodness, 7 minutes, I know. So, but I've inbred that in my kids. I literally taught them. I remember watching the Cheaper by the Dozen movie where the dad was sitting out there and he took the bar soap and showed the kids how to wash their body effectively. I've done that with my kids. I sat outside in the bathroom and I walked them through, okay, you get in the shower, you get wet. When the water's dripping down, you grab your bar soap or your shampoo, you scrub your head. As your head is scrubbed, you get all your head really good, scrub. Then you take your bar soap or on your scrubby and you scrub your body as the water is just rinsing the soap out of your hair. Scrub your neck, and I go through their whole entire body, teach them the areas to clean really well, and I get them the whole thing. And I said, then when you're done, if you've got a few extra minutes, you can brush your teeth in there. We brush our teeth in the shower. I know that's strange for some people, but we always have. And then rinse off and you're done. And you can literally do that in 4 minutes in a shower. And so the younger ones, I had to teach them, they were in there for like 10, 12 minutes, and so I had to set a timer in there, and then had to teach them how it went off, that they were done, because otherwise that will use up so much water. And so my kids have learned to take 7-minute showers just because we have to around here. And then the little ones, I'll do 4 of them, take a bath still. So I usually do 2 girls and 2 boys, and so usually the boys are dirtier than the girls. So usually the girls going first, and then I fill it up just a little bit, the tub, and I wash their hair wash their bodies, let them soak in there, use clean water to rinse them off, and then the boys get in and let them soak. And I wet their hair with that same water, and then when they're done, I rinse them with fresh water. And it's still, the tub is only about that full with 4 of them. So for me, that's more efficient that way. So showers and baths can definitely take up a lot of water. So what are some other things you can do is if you have a drippy faucet, fix that right away because that will use up a lot of water. In the toilets, if you don't do energy efficient toilets, you can always put like a brick in the back to use up less water. Or I think I've heard of a canning jar in the back too to cut down the water that it uses. I want to say, I was looking at my notes here, the toilets, I think the energy efficient toilets are about $100, where a regular toilet is like $60 or $70, maybe it's $70. So it's a little bit different, but well worth the investment if you have to cut back on water. Those, I'm trying to think anything else that we've done over the years. Those are just things that we do naturally that I realize a lot of people don't do in their home. And so just being aware of things and what is wasting it, if you find, I like now that all of our electric meter is a smart meter. So now when I get my email or text message each month of how much we're using, it will pinpoint, kind of scary that they know that much, but they pinpoint which things are using which amount of power. So I know how much the lights are using. I know how much the plugged in devices like the TVs and the computers, things like that are using. I know how much the refrigerators are using and the freezers, things like that. Kind of scary that they know that, but very cool because then I can go, oh, okay, we need to cut back on this. We need to cut back on this. So those are great things to do. So I hope you enjoyed this video on how we cut back on utilities for a large family, which can be used in a small family as well. So we will see you tomorrow. Okay, bye-bye.